Chapter 5, Tentative Allies. The parking garage was dimly lit, its concrete walls sweating from the night's chill. Marcus Dalton leaned against a pillar, his hood pulled low over his face. He scanned the levels around him, every sound amplified by the oppressive silence. He had been standing there for 20 minutes, and the longer he waited, the heavier the air seemed to grow. The headlights of a car sliced through the shadows as Detective Lena Walsh pulled up in her unmarked sedan. She stepped out, her movements quick and purposeful, her eyes locking on Marcus. The echo of her boots on the concrete filled the space as she approached. "You're jumpy," Lena said, her tone flat but observant. "Wouldn't you be?" Marcus shot back, his voice low. "This is suicide. We both know it." Lena tilted her head, scrutinizing him. "Then why are you here?" Marcus hesitated, his jaw tightening. "Because I can't keep running. And Chris, he didn't deserve what happened to him." The name hung in the air like a ghost, and Lena nodded, her expression softening just a fraction. No, he didn't. She opened the trunk of her car and pulled out a small duffel bag. Setting it on the ground between them, she unzipped it to reveal a burner phone, a slim notebook, and a compact recorder. "This is how we're going to do this," she said, crouching beside the bag. "You use the burner for contact. No personal phones, no texts I can't control. Write down details of everything you see or hear, and use the recorder for anything important. And for the love of God, don't keep any of this near your apartment." Marcus crouched beside her, his hands hovering over the items like they might explode. "And if they find out? If they catch me?" "They won't," Lena said, her tone firm but not unkind. "If you stick to the plan and don't do anything stupid, you'll be fine." He laughed bitterly, standing up. "Yeah, because the Rossis are so forgiving." Lena straightened, zipping the bag closed and slinging it over her shoulder. "You came to me, Marcus. No one forced you into this." "I didn't have a choice," Marcus said, meeting her gaze. "Chris is dead because I kept quiet for too long. I'm not making that mistake again." Lena studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Good. Because if we're doing this, I need you all in." The next day, Marcus sat in the back of a diner, his notebook open in front of him. He kept his head down, scribbling notes about the Rossi family's known hangouts and routines. The more he wrote, the heavier the notebook seemed to grow, like it was absorbing the weight of his fear. The door jingled, and Marcus's heart jumped. He glanced up, his breath hitching when he saw a Rossi enforcer walk in. He was a stocky man with a scar running across his cheek, and his sharp eyes scanned the room before landing on Marcus. "Hey, Dalton," the man called, his voice too loud for comfort. Marcus forced a smile, closing the notebook and shoving it into his jacket pocket. "Hey, Vin, didn't think I'd see you here." Vin pulled up a chair without asking, his weight making the chair groan. "Been a while. Heard you've been keeping to yourself lately." "Just laying low," Marcus said, his throat dry, trying to stay out of trouble. Vin's gaze lingered on him, the silence stretching uncomfortably. "Smart move. Lot of heat on the family right now. People getting nervous. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" Marcus shook his head, keeping his face neutral. "Nah, I'm just doing my thing." Vin leaned back, his smile thin and sharp. "Good. Wouldn't want to see anything happen to you?" The words hung in the air like a blade, and Marcus could only nod as Vin stood and left the diner. He sat there for several minutes, his hands trembling under the table, before finally getting up and leaving. That night, Marcus met Lena in another secluded spot, a storage facility on the edge of the city. He handed her the notebook, his voice shaking as he recounted his run-in with Vin. "They're on to me," he said. "I can feel it." Lena flipped through the pages, her expression unreadable. "They're cautious, but they don't know yet. If they did, you wouldn't be standing here." "Great. That's comforting," Marcus muttered. Lena snapped the notebook closed and looked up at him. "You're doing good, Marcus, but you have to stay sharp. If you give them any reason to doubt you, it's over." "Yeah, I got that," he said, rubbing his temples. But how long can I keep this up? As long as it takes, Lena said. Chris's death wasn't just a tragedy. It was a message. The Rossi family doesn't get to operate with impunity anymore. Marcus sighed, his shoulders slumping. And if I don't make it? You will, Lena said, her voice firm. But you have to trust me. Can you do that? He hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, I can. Lena handed him another burner phone and gave his shoulder a reassuring squeeze. One step at a time, Marcus. We'll get there. Back at the Rossi estate, Dominic Rossi stood in his office, staring out at the city skyline. Maria entered the room, her heels clicking softly on the hardwood floor. Dalton's been busy, she said, setting a file on the desk. Vin saw him meeting someone last night. Dominic turned, his expression unreadable. Who? Didn't see their face, Maria said. But Dalton's acting different. Nervous. We should keep an eye on him. Dominic nodded, his gaze hardening. If he's turned, he'll wish he hadn't. Marcus sat in his apartment, staring at the burner phone on the table. He felt the walls closing in, the noose tightening. The only thing louder than his heartbeat was the silence that surrounded him. He picked up the phone and dialed Lena. What is it? She answered, her voice sharp. They're watching me, Marcus whispered. I can feel it. Then we move fast, Lena said. Stay put. I'll handle it. Marcus hung up, his hands shaking. He knew she'd try, but deep down, he wasn't sure anyone could handle the storm that was coming.